Welcome to each and every one of you. We are so excited about tonight's speaker series. I'm Reverend Janet Childs, and along with Reverend Corky Whitaker, we try to present something every month for our speaker series, and we are so incredibly blessed and fortunate to have Reverend Scout Bartlett with us tonight. I am I, you are you, we are we, and we are one. And I just have to let you know, each and every one of you, our speaker series happens every month, and we're so grateful for it because it gives us a chance to come together in community and to share wisdom and to share insights and to share compassion, to share stories. And we have a tradition on our speaker series of lighting the candle. And I don't know if you can all see the candle, but there it is. It's a kind of a pretty light blue-green candle. And the symbol is the peacock, which in the Eastern tradition is the symbol of the phoenix. And so we thought that's what we needed today. So we're going to just light that candle up for each and every one of you and for our amazing Reverend Scout as we explore together the dimensions of spirituality and healing and love that we can bring to each other as we look into this new year and this new age that we are in. Please know that the Universal Church of the Master is a great organization that provides healing, comfort, safety, community to each and every one of you. So please think about joining us. Think about coming to even more of our meetings and gatherings. And right now, that is what I am getting, that we need this community. And Reverend Scout Bartlett has been an amazing, amazing person who has been in our field of influence and awareness for many years. He is a wisdom keeper, he is a healer, he is an intuitive, and he is brilliant. And he has a way of synthesizing information and insight. And what we're going to do tonight, is we're going to allow Scout to speak, and then we will have time for questions and discussions at the end of his presentation. But right now, I just want to honor and welcome Reverend Scout Bartlett. And thank you so much, Scout, for being here for all of us.
Thank you, Janet. I sort of come out of an introduction like that with an "oh, gee, shucks." Thank you all. So I first got introduced to UCM through Dottie's church. And in an interesting way, it has connected and associated UCM, Universal Church of the Master, to me for a sense of acceptance and permission. And so when Janet got in touch, when Janet and Corey got in touch about me joining the speaker series and speaking tonight, it was like, ooh, this is a place where I could sort of turn it loose into all of the places that are maybe a little too woo-woo some of the time, or that maybe I just don't quite go to some of the time for fear that I'm going to leave people behind. It does make me think of a story that Ram Dass told that I loved a lot. He tells the story that when he first started speaking and engaging with people about metaphysical stuff, he was college professor age, and a whole lot of his audience was typically around college student and early 30s. And one evening in particular, right down in the front row was a lady with gray hair, and he found himself thinking, uh-oh, I'll phrase it, we've got a grown-up in the room, I'd better dial it down. Until he got to one place in his talk where he said, I couldn't figure out any way to say what I wanted to say without going out into some of the really far out stuff. So I did. And that lady in the front row kept nodding her head. He said, and so that gave me permission. And I probably went even more into the far out stuff than I typically would. And she kept nodding her head. And he would describe it. He said, at first I thought maybe she had a neck problem, but it was obvious to me that she was nodding and understanding what I was talking about as far out there as I would go. So I did that thing at the end of the talk where you can make eye contact with the people in the audience and basically communicate, you have to come up and talk to me afterward. And so she did, and she came up and was telling him, Dr. Alpert, thank you so much for what you've had to say. I so rarely get to hear anybody talk about these things. And and Ram Dass described it that he said, I looked at her and I said, what do you do? What is it that you do that that gives you these concepts, that makes you aware of this stuff? And he described it. She leaned in really close, being very confidential, and she said, I crochet, which fits with my world in terms of meditation is meditation, no matter how you do it. But I love that because it's a place of, I don't have to worry about whether or not I think my audience is going to get it. I can just go ahead, and sometimes I've got the permission to just go full tilt into the deeper stuff that I explore. So there's levels to our extra awarenesses. There's an intuitive or a psychic level. I use those words interchangeably. I know lots of people don't. But there's a next level that I hear defined as a mystical level beyond psychic. A mystical level where what's going on is we're communing with that wholeness beyond life and drawing from that an understanding beyond what the mind normally contains. This is one of those moments where I wish I journaled because I'd love to know when this happened, and I don't know. But I was in a meditative state one day. Oh, the shiny part, I dressed for this evening in my new sport coat. But I was in a meditation one day, and all right, languaging is going to be tricky. So I'll give the language my best approximation, and what you'll have to do is extrapolate into what the heck that meant. I was in my meditation, and I was greeted by an awareness. We sort of a, come here, let me show you something, kind of a sense to it. And in this state, in this vision, they took me further and further and further up away from Earth and pointed out that Earth was one level of learning, one level of lessons, one level of encountering our tangled energy parts. And they took me further back until I could see a row of planets, essentially, from left to right. And what they pointed out to me in this vision was that what I was looking at was the progression of learning. On what was my left, we had the earlier levels of bringing awareness into a body. And as you move to the right, we moved further up in those levels through multiple lifetimes or multiple life experiences, or if you want to be a Seth fan, through multiple experiences in our group soul, any of them. For me, it works easiest to think of multiple lifetimes. And they showed me earlier schools, lessons, learning, lifetimes, where spirits were embodied and they were able to experience the body and have hunger and pain and all of those fun parts. But that they were still pretty much connected to and in that higher level awareness where we're all connected, where we're all joined, where we are all fragment awarenesses of an original wholeness. And that school from inside of it looked like a planet. From where I was outside of everything, they just looked like stages of awareness. But if I went into the experience of being on that planet, it looked very, very much like a planet, and it was beautiful and luxurious and Garden of Eden and all that fun stuff. And then they drew me back out to look at the progression. And what they showed me was that if I went closer to Earth, this particular school, while it was still green and lush, and there was lots of free-ranging beauty scattered about on the planet that you could bump into at any given moment. That joyful part about I could be in a grumpy, horrible, miserable state of mind and suddenly see a rainbow and remember, oh yeah, beauty. Or I could be in that grumpy, miserable state of mind and suddenly encounter baby ducks. And oh yeah, I am reminded by the beauty outside of me. I'm reminded to come back to the part of me that's associated with beauty or associated with clarity or associated with elevated energy or aliveness or love for that matter. But there was still lots of free ranging beauty. In the earlier planets, there was lots and lots of free ranging beauty and relatively primitive beings that were mostly disconnected from their physical experience and being their intuitive experience, but moving bodies, getting associated to bodies, being reminded about pain and experiences as an individual. And then they moved me out further again and moved me up in the series of planets. And the first thing I could see when they brought me close into that further up the chain planet was that the planet itself, experienced from outside the planet, looked stark. No other word for it, stark. And I sort of went, wait a minute, I thought we were moving up. Why would it get more stark, more hot, more dry, more desolate? And what they showed me was that, stop, restart sentence. What they showed me was we're not embodying into a, well, in this case, physical presence just on our own individual path. We're not embodying into a physical experience just to untangle our own energy tangles or our own lessons or our own lessons is the word we're used to. That we're actually here in every given here in space and time, where there is space and time. We're actually here in space and time, not just clearing our own mind and clearing our own lessons, but elevating our frequency, elevating the entire frequency we embody, the frequency we radiate, the frequency we vibrate. And in that, having an effect on our surroundings as well. And as we move forward, what they showed me was, if you thought of this whole project of having bodies and planets and space and time as being a project of having stumbled into a big pool of raw material, energy threads that are the raw material of God, the force, whatever, everything. That at the front end of it, all of that scrambling of raw material has an equal amount of all the various energy frequencies, including those frequencies that are closely aligned with original source, and therefore that we would experience with beauty, and those frequencies that are marginally unaligned with original source that we would experience as slightly off, and those frequencies that are 180 degrees out from original source that that we might experience as provocative or we might experience as off or wrong. So if we start with this whole pool of randomly scrambled energy, and our goal is to transform all of that randomly scrambled energy into an alignment with and into a matching frequency with original source, then by randomness, at the start of the game, there'd be random elements of aligned or beauty. We'll just use that word. There'd be random elements of beauty energy. There'd be random elements of love energy intermixed with all of these slightly off loves, way off love, completely off love energy, slightly off beauty, completely way off beauty, completely off beauty, all scrambled up all together. And so what we see is random beauty all over the place. So if we were looking at that planet from the outside, it looks lush and green and verdant and Garden of Eden-esque. But as we progress, we're drawing in, taking on more and more of that energy. And as we progress, we're freeing, untangling, aligning more and more of that energy within our awareness, within us. Indelicately put, even here on earth, even here in this dimension, even here in this progression in the school of separateness, we'll notice that people who really draw that energy align. I see a note that says my sound cut off. Is that me? Okay. They say it's you, Rachel.
I can hear you okay.
You're good. We can hear you.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Absolutely.
So as we fumble with all of the things that might push our buttons and throw us into concern and fear, as we move through that, we're expanding rephrase, when even here on earth, in the school of earth, in the school of separateness, we noticed that I had the privilege at one point in time that a friend got tickets for the Dalai Lama, and was able to get tickets, and they scored an extra ticket and offered it to me. And so I got to go to be in the presence of the Dalai Lama at whatever they call Shoreline now. So me and, however many thousand of his closest friends hanging out with the Dalai Lama, which, by the way, if you ever have an opportunity to get tickets, grab a spare. I'll take it. I don't care what it costs. Well, I do, but if it's under $1,000, I don't. Roughly. Anyway, I noticed that sitting there in Shoreline, being all revved up and ready for this experience of the Dalai Lama, which I'd never had before, that I'm hanging out with my friends, and all of a sudden I knew. I said, oh, he's almost here. He's about a half a mile down the road, so he probably just got off the highway. And I felt that presence from what felt to me like a half a mile. And I felt that presence get closer and closer until they introduced him, brought him on stage. And then I just sort of sat and blissed out in that. And, he talked about stuff, and yeah, so fun. But I just blissed out in that. And I was high for like 3 days. I noticed that little old Tibetan guy was incredibly beautiful. Many times I had the opportunity to be in the presence of Ram Dass, and I noticed that little old Jewish New Yorker was incredibly beautiful. Even being in the presence of Amici, incredibly beautiful. And we watched that, and even with stage performers who are able to run a tremendous amount of energy through them, which gains them as a performer, we notice that all of the people that we see on stage or in movies, we don't perceive them as all looking alike. And yet there's a beauty to people that can present that level of juice, that level of energy, musicians or metaphysical speakers. That there's a beauty that we notice there's a beauty as people bring more and more of their energy into alignment and draw more and more of their energetic threads out of the knots, K-N-O-T, knots, as they draw more and more of their energy threads out of those K-N-O-T knots that give them a life flow of N-O-T knot. It's my own pun. It's only funny inside my head. But as they draw more and more of those threads out of those K-N-O-T energy knots, their lessons, there's more radiance to them. There's more beauty to them. And some of us come in with that beauty naturally flowing and we build more, and some of us don't. And then we have to build it from scratch. Go buy the IKEA beauty kit and untangle our energy until we can radiate with beauty and light. But what we see as more and more of our energy pattern is drawn out of its tangles and knots, we have more and more of that beauty embodied within us, which, changes perceptions. But we have more and more of that beauty and that light radiating in our energy. I have some very dear friends in Los Angeles that I get to travel and hang out with quite a bit. And they're my fabulous reminder, because they very comfortably point out to me that things that they do normally go differently when I'm there. Coincidences, synchronicities, things flowing really nicely, things being, amazing events. Um, the chef deciding to come out and talk with our table and then deciding to treat our table to some experiment they're doing in the kitchen. These sorts of fun things. Just, I don't know that it's different. And not that that happens every time I go to a restaurant, but I don't know that it's different, but they notice that when I'm there, stuff flows differently. All right, this is sounding like a flex and a brag. That's not my intent. But you notice it with people whose energy is elevated and high. And you notice it as that energy gets more elevated and higher. That what we're doing is untangling the dissonant parts of energy, those dissonant energy threads, and bringing them into a state of alignment with that original wholeness. And our experience of energy in alignment with that original wholeness, the only word we have for that in English is beauty. So I'm outside the planets looking at these various levels of school. And I noticed that as I looked at them from the outside, these different levels of school, these different planets, these different levels of growth looked more and more stark as they went along from the outside, which threw me off. And in that delicate way that I have with guidance, I sort of casually said, "What the heck? You guys are screwing it up," or something along those lines. "How are you getting this so wrong? The planet should be more beautiful." And what they pointed out was, as one moved forward in the progression of growth planets' reality systems, viewed from the outside, this progression of planets would look more and more stark. But viewed from the inside of a being in that reality system, being alive in that reality system, in that sense of planet, each of these levels of frequency that viewed from the outside could be seen as different levels of frequency, that viewed from the inside, all of these levels of frequency appeared as a planet to the occupants and appeared as home to the occupants. But from the inside, the experience of being in a body or in a reality system on the planet actually progressed and got more and more beauty filled. The best description I could grasp was they were talking about, we're not just here untangling our lessons. We're not just here on a stable platform doing an individual project, untangling an individual scoop of the energy that we're here to untangle. We're actually part of a wholeness. So if you've ever gone to a philharmonic and you got there early enough to hear them tuning up once they're in their chairs and they're tuning up, typically it's either the first violin or the first clarinet, depending upon what the orchestra is made up of, plays a note, which for those of you that are worried about these things is typically an E. But the first violin or the first clarinet plays an E, a note. Now, before that, everybody's been fiddling around and rehearsing their rough passages or the part of tonight's concert that they really want to smooth out, or they're just showing off with their favorite riff. But once that first clarinet or that first violin plays that one note, they're not just playing their note, they actually are playing the note so that the entire musical group, orchestra, will come around and tune to that note so that they're all tuned to each other. So you could think of it as the first violin bringing the entire orchestra into tune and unified. Y'all with me? Well, you and 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 me and we are all together. You are on planet Earth a first violin or a clarinet if you need to be. You're developing and tuning the frequency, the note that you are playing. Now, we're acting off of each other, so we are tuning to each other. And when we get the opportunity to be in an elevated presence, Dalai Lama, Amachi, when we get the opportunity to be in an illuminated presence, we will have a tendency, all of us have a tendency to match the most consistently held energy in the space, no matter where we are. Which is why if we're all joining together 10,000 people to sit and meditate with a guru, everybody's meditation will elevate because they'll tend to match with the guru. On the other hand, if we're 600 people jammed into a cube farm, everybody will tend to match to the grumpiest person in the cube farm, not because grumpy's stronger, but because grumpy people are more solid in their mantra. Happy people, light people, are happy to be happy with happy influences and happy thoughts and happy things going around. But if they get bumped, they get bumped. Grumpy people, on the other hand, are just so solid with everything's going to be awful. You'll see. Oh, look, it's sunny out. Going to fade the paint on my new car. Oh, look, it's raining. It won't fade your paint. I just washed my new car. They're just so solid on their mantra that grumpy people in a cube farm or in many places tend to be the most consistently held energy in the space. So they become first violin in that cube farm. And everybody has a tendency to match the most consistently held energy in the space. You don't have to. It's not a requirement. It's just a tendency. So if you're going to do anything other than match to the most consistently held energy in the space, you have to do it on purpose, with purpose, of purpose, being on purpose. Well, here in School of Earth, in this resonant frequency of Earth, we're all first violin. We're not just here sorting out our patterns, our lessons. We're here affecting and bouncing off everybody else that's here participating, but we're also shifting the energy of the reality system. We're shifting the energy of the planet. We're shifting the energy of Earth, not just the energy of people, all of the energy of Earth. Everybody, would you take a breath in, please, and come back? Yeah, I missed you. Did you have a nice trip? Whole room went zhoosh. So back now. All of the energies. We're a first violin in the orchestra of Earth, tuning all of the energies to that. So every time we're elevating and clearing a portion of jangle or twist or knot, K-N-O-T, in our energy field, we're then vibrating with that higher frequency. And that higher frequency is indeed doing several things. One, it's drawing other higher frequencies toward us. Two, it's punching the buttons of people that don't want to let their frequency elevate because they don't want to have that tendency to match to that. And three, it's resonating through the whole reality system of Earth and elevating that whole reality system of Earth, which is a piece of what we're in the middle of right now. Every year for a lot of years, Janet and Dottie may actually know better than I do because they both hosted some of the early times when I was feeling my way through this event back in the mansion. But every year in December for a lot of years, I wish I'd made notes of when it started, but I didn't know it was going to be important. But I think it's either at or pushing 40 years now. Yeah, which gives it away. I'm not 20. I have done a message at the solstice, winter solstice, around the winter solstice. Actually, the latest Sunday in December that's more than 7 days before Christmas is the official codex. But that we just call the Holy Days message. And in that Holy Days message, I show up and then I go take a break. I show up, I get my body in the chair, I say hi to everybody, and then I get to go on break. I take myself into a deep, full trance state, which, sorry, I always have to say this, not a thing I recommend you try on your own at home. I did a lot of study of energy and frequency, and my knack is a study of frequencies before I ever risked letting another entity be in charge of my body on purpose. I make a likeness to it of for you to try and go into trance and invite some other entity in to speak through your body would be the rough equivalent to walking into a neighborhood tavern at say 3 o'clock on a weekday afternoon and holding up your hand and hollering, "Who here at the bar on a weekday afternoon getting drunk at the bar on a Tuesday is a financial genius that would like to manage the $10 million I just inherited from my aunt?" I have not done the experiment, but I used to play a lot of pinball, and you may have noticed that very few metaphysical centers have pinball machines. Some arcades do, but the best maintained pinball machines, the sleazier the bar, the better they maintain the pinball machine, because they have clients that would complain and they want the money. So that would put me in biker and neighborhood and other interesting bars in the middle of the afternoon. When I had a break, I'd go play pinball. And having been around bars and taverns at 2 or 3 o'clock on a weekday afternoon, I can tell you, everybody at the bar knows everybody else's name, and everybody at the bar knows the bartender's name and thinks of the bartender as a close personal friend. And I can tell you that pretty solidly, while I've not tried the experiment, I'm pretty sure that if you walked into a bar, a dimly lit bar at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, so not a Saturday, not a Sunday, a weekday, and held up your hand and said, "Who in here is a financial genius that has always known you were a financial genius, and that if somebody would just give you the chance, you would demonstrate just what a financial genius you are." If there were 20 people at the bar, you'd get at least 19 geniuses that would step up and volunteer. They'd be more than happy to take charge of your money for you. You don't need to have a single worry about it. I'll double it or triple it, and then I'll give it all back to you. Yep. Sorry, I just had a hunch that Corky probably agrees with me. Anyway, going into a trance state, the first frequency level beyond this experience of physical reality, we frequently refer to those first layers of that next frequency level up as, yeah, the word just went out of my head. How exciting. They don't want me to talk about that. Anyway, it'll come back 10 minutes after I needed it. But that first set of layers of frequency beyond physical space, it's not letting go. I want that name, is relatively occupied by entities who no longer have bodies, but still have all of their attention back on Earth. Thank you, Astral. Exactly correct. Thanks, Denny. They still have their attention back on Earth. They're not looking up and forward into the light. They're still looking back with regret or attachment or the certainty if they'd just been given a chance, they would have done it better, or they would have been genuine, a genius, or they could have been a contender. They're looking back toward Earth with a real sense of attachment. And so those astral levels, so appreciate you, Denny, thank you. Those astral levels are a tavern at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. I could have been a genius at my life if they'd just given me a chance. Somebody please let me go take the steering wheel in your body so that I don't have to risk doing my own lifetime. Somebody please go let me take the controls in your body and drive your life where I'm not taking any risk with mine, because I think I'd be a genius. And if I took charge of your life, I would prove what a genius I am, and God would look gracefully upon me, and I would be elevated into the whatever. Not the folks you want in charge of your lifetime. The same way that the folks at the bar on a Tuesday afternoon, probably not the folks you want in charge of your investments, who are going to prove that they're a genius with your money if you just give them your money to prove it. Y'all with me? So this is not to frighten you. It's like they're on the astral plane. They're looking for any place they could attach to. They're the Ebert candidates for Corky's stuff, excuse me. but they're still focused back toward Earth. Any way that they could get an attachment into Earth and take the steering wheel and drive somebody else's investment of a lifetime and not risk theirs, whether they can't let go enough to move up into the light, whether they're not brave enough to move up into the light, whether they're scared to move up into the light, whether they really don't believe in themselves enough to move up into the light. They're just there, still looking toward Earth, trying to get a chance to have a steering wheel on Earth rather than their own. So I did a lot of work and a lot of practice developing my palette for sensing clarity of frequency before I ever tranced out and let another entity step into my body. That was a long side tech. Now we're back to our actual story. So for about a bunch of years now, 40 probably, 38, each year in December, guidance has let me know that it was time for me to schedule and invite people to attend, for me to go into trance, step out of the way, and allow members of my highest guidance council, the White Brotherhood of Light, to allow members of my highest guidance council to be able to embody into my body and bring their whole frequency into this antenna so that they could be bringing their frequency into this broadcast unit, broadcasting their frequency on the planet, as well as being able to speak on the planet using my body, my mouth, my voice, my vocal cords, without it being filtered by my belief systems. Because I would never intend to filter it, but the truth is, even in sessions with people, sometimes I get information that makes no sense to me. And it's all I can do to get out of the way of that and tell them what I got rather than filter it through what I think is right. Sometimes I'll even cop to it. I'll even cop out on that and go, this makes no sense to me, but this is what I'm getting. So I'll tell it to you. So take it with a grain of salt and do with it what you will. Well, guidance gets me together and takes me into trance. Guidance gets me together and takes me into trance to get all of my belief systems out of the way. They're only stuck with my vocabulary. That apparently we can't get completely out of the way. I only do the thing in English, which I've always thought would be pretty cool. If suddenly my body spoke fluent Russian, that would be fascinating. That'd be a good proof. But it's always been English, and sometimes I can feel them sorting through my brain, like looking through a Rolodex, an old-fashioned Rolodex, sorting through my brain, looking for the word that means the thing that they want to say, which is kind of a fascinating experience. I experience the whole thing kind of like as if I was the head contractor for the caterers. And what I'm doing is I'm keeping track of the kitchen, but I'm standing in the kitchen doorway listening to the speaker, detached from it, not part of it, not associated to it. I'm just standing in my mental kitchen doorway, listening to the speaker to see what they have to say. And I remember almost none of it when it's over. All that lead up, wow, it was a long stall. So a bunch of years ago, guidance started stepping in the Holy Days messages. In fact, I think that's why they actually happened. And started talking about this transformation that was coming forward in this school of Earth, in this reality system that we think of as a planet and that we think of as a planet named Earth. In fact, this reality system that we think of as the planet, the only planet in all of the amazing gazillions of planets that has any cognizant beings on it, and that it is Earth. In fact, sometimes I laugh at the scientists who are busy saying, well, this is not, this other planet we're looking at in some other solar system is not a habitable planet because we couldn't live there. Yeah, I don't think that carbon-based, oxygen-consuming beings are the only conscious beings in the universe, but I could be wrong. Or science could be wrong. Either way. So they started talking about this moment of transformation, and they did it. At first, I thought it was just, well, I tell you, at first, when they first started talking about it, after several of the Holy Days messages, all I could see in my head was those classic cartoons of the guy in robes and a beard with a sign that says, the end is near. And I thought, oh, guys, you guys are making me a cartoon. which I have to let go of. They get to make me a cartoon if they want to make me a cartoon. In fact, one year they almost made me fall out of the chair. There's lots of stories about trance stuff. If we're ever out hanging around and you want to hear all my funny stories about me being in my body in trance, we can tell those stories, but they don't fit here. But that was my thought of, oh God, they're making me a cartoon. You know, the end is near, that classic cartoon. And then I saw the pattern to it. And what they were talking about was a whole lot of what we could expect to see as we moved toward this moment of transformation, so that we'd be able to recognize what we were seeing and know what it actually meant. We're not just here untangling our own life path. We're not just here untangling our own set of lessons. We're not just here untangling our little bag of energy tangles any more than the first violinist is just there playing an E on their violin for their own entertainment. God, I'd never used that analogy before. I like it. It works. It's working, right? We're here changing our vibration and untangling untangling the chunk of the energy tangles, the lessons, the bent energy, the constricted, restricted energy flows that we took on as our part of the project. We're here untangling our own particular package, but we're also here as a unit, as a unification group, untangling the energy of the reality system, so that we, as consciousness says, are moving this frequency, school of earth, school of separateness, up a notch. Now, I've heard a lot. I'm not good at naming things. I'm not good at fancy names. I mean, the first class I taught, I called it the healing class, all lowercase. And then after that, we had son of healing, daughter of healing, child of healing. So I'm not great with fancy names. My primary practice I do is energy alignment. The meditation that I teach at first was just vertical beam and glow. Somebody actually renamed it for me. So now it's our live beam meditation, which I'm very thrilled for it to have a name. But I'm not good at fancy names. Up until now, we'll put it that way. I have not yet been good at fancy names. So I think of it as taking a third grade classroom, and that we're remodeling and changing to make that third grade classroom into a fourth grade classroom, one step up. And one of my clients that taught for a number of years pointed out to me at one point that while I'd been using third grade, fourth grade as my analogy forever, they pointed out that in the scholastic structure, fourth grade is the place where school actually shifts from teaching basics and shifts into teaching how to apply what you've been learning so far and how to expand on it, which is perfect. That made a ton of sense to me. Now, at the same time, I want to acknowledge the people that are fabulous at fancy names that I've seen. We're going from the 11th dimension to the 27th dimension. We're going from the age of this to the age of Wisma. I'm not good at names. I can't remember theirs either. But I've seen lots of other descriptions with really, really excellent fancy names. So I'm stuck with third grade to fourth grade, but I'm okay with that. We're moving from the 11th dimension to the 27th dimension in the Archangel structure of Drismadon. I'm good with that. That's all cool. Because truly, all of us that are teaching this stuff, there's a phrase that you've heard of, ineffable as in not able to bring it in and understand it in your mind. And then there's one famous quote of a gentleman who was teaching, and he pointed out that we were all trying to EFFF, the ineffable, as in trying to understand that which could not be understood. And that was before people referred casually to the F word. And now I just think it makes it even funnier. We're all trying to F with the ineffable and figure it out. That's funny in my head. But all of the naming is fine with me. I don't care. I don't care. It might even turn out that once I get there, I'll go, oh wow, this is really the 27.37th dimension of the 19th, 27th of the arch revel of Wazazu, and that'll be really cool. I'll be really happy with that name. Right now, I'm just at third grade to fourth grade, and that we're shifting the classroom from being a third grade classroom to a fourth grade classroom. It's not shifting us. It's not making us have to shift. We're shifting it with the expansion of our consciousness across the planet. And so I started to recognize the pattern of what guidance was teaching me. Through me in our Holy Days message. And I got it. They were giving me the signs of our time, which was not how I thought of it then. It's just like, oh, they're giving me a heads up what to watch for so that I'll know what it is. But also, they're giving me a heads up what to watch for so that I don't know if any of y'all have noticed if you've been paying, mild attention to current events. But if you're paying mild attention to current events, we're in an amazingly horrifying moment in time where there is no way to look at it from a current events perspective any other way than, well, if you're a control freak, it's like, oh, thank God, some control freak is going to try and get control and they'll be control and everybody will be where they should be. And if you're a control freak that's in the group that's going to benefit from all of that, then it's like, oh, thank God, somebody's going to finally get control so that we do well and everybody else will understand that we're above them. So there'll be no confusion about who's winning. In which case, God bless you. And besides, if you're that, you haven't made it this far through this talk anyway. But if you're not that level of control freak, if you are a broader thought of inclusiveness in your mind, there's no way to look at current events and see them any way other than we are in the handbasket that's being filled with biological fertilizer that's speeding it up as it heads downhill to hell. Right? We're definitely in the handbasket, flowing down the hill to hell if you're looking at current events. Biological fertilizer. Thanks, Brent. Thus, over the years in my Holy Days messages, you guys are all still, yeah, you're all still here. Okay, I'm not boring you out of your minds. But I feel like my pace is off. Over the years in the Holy Days messages, things they taught me to keep an eye out for. One, that we would see an amazing increase, that the speed of time as measured against the speed of thought would be increasing tremendously. Now, speed of time against clocks stays the same because it's all speeding up. Physical reality is speeding up. So the clock's speeding up, the planet rotation is speeding up, the sun going around our solar system, the sun going around our galaxy is speeding up. You got it. But the speed of time versus the speed of thought would be increasing tremendously. And I don't know how many of y'all have noticed, but it's January 13th of next year when my body says it ought to be about May 1st, if that makes sense to you. Y'all get it, right? Like the amount of time between, and granted, Thanksgiving was late, Christmas somehow came early. But if y'all noticed, the amount of time between Thanksgiving and Christmas was about 6 breaths and a walk. Boom, we're there. And the amount of time between Christmas and January 13th was about 6 breaths and a nap, if you got lucky, right? Whoosh. Now, I have a really broad demographic in my client base. Youngest active client right now is 23. But no, that's not true. Youngest active client right now is 17. Sorry, didn't mean to leave them out. So I've got a pretty broad, and oldest client, active client right now is 94, I think, as of last month. So a little bit of a spread in my demographic, which makes it handy because then I can find out, because I can remember old folk, when I was a kid, as you get older, time just goes faster. So I could just think like, I'm an old dude and time just seems faster, except I've got 17 and 20-year-old clients 17, 20, early 30-year-old clients are going, oh my God, yeah, I can't believe how fast it's going. So it's not just that I'm an old dude. Time would be speeding up tremendously versus the speed of thought. That we would see an amazing split into polarization of people. That a whole lot of people would be leaving the planet in new and interesting ways. I'm sure that what they actually said was new and novel ways, and that my brain got in the way and I missed the word. But that would have been so if I could have scored a lot of, millions of people leaving the planet in new and novel ways, that would have just been such a hit with the novel coronavirus. But nonetheless, that we would see large numbers of people leaving the planet in new and interesting ways. Not only that, that we would see a year where we came very close to zero population growth. Birth versus people leaving would come very close to being the same number. Go check your numbers. And one year they cracked a joke, because you may find it interesting. You might find it surprising to find out that my guidance has a rather ironic and quick sense of humor. So one year they cracked a joke and said that that was not a good year to buy an expensive globe that had the delineations of the countries on the globe. Not a good year to do that. Now, any of y'all that are my age, you remember that there was a pretty fair chunk of time where the only places where countries were changing shape were some little countries in northern Africa that sort of keep moving their border back and forth a little bit. And yet, what they pointed out was it was not a good time to be buying an expensive map that had national borders on it, because countries would be busy trying to bite off, steal, or take charge of chunks of other countries. And they pointed out that what we would see is people who had a following and built their power from having a following would be doing everything they could to increase their following, their power to establish, whether they had a following because they were a nation, whether they had a following because they were a religion, whether they had a following because they had a following. That what we would see is people who had power because of a following would be striving to increase their following. And I found that fabulously interesting. The first that I noticed when evangelical people claiming they were a Christian religion started attacking the Catholics. Oh, look at them. Their priests have been bad with the little boys. Started attacking other Protestants. Oh, look at them. They've been stealing money to steal that following over into their following. And then, of course, we have former television stars and other people that have decided to go seek followings and build and establish their sense of power through their following, demonstrating that they could get away with taking a bite out of another country or shooting somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue, that they could get away with because of their following and the power of their following. At the same time, they told us that in addition to the speed of time speeding up versus the speed of thought, that the other thing we would see would be our intuition would be opening and expanding, coming closer, and that the time delay between thought and thing, which is the time delay between holding a complete focus into a manifestation, power of the law of attraction, there it is. We keep, it's like positive visualization, as a man thinketh, magnetism, and now we've got power of attraction. And every time you can name it, then it seems like you're the one that invented manifestation, law of attraction. But that the time delay in manifestation would decrease, which is a good news, bad news, and that our access to our intuitive would be closer and closer. Now, I'm noticing that I've been, along with being a practical mystic, that engineering background. Oh, for those of you that don't know me, I grew up in Kansas. There probably were metaphysical stores around me, but I didn't know about them. My dad was an engineer. My dad met my mom in a math class in college. My grandfather was in a technical field. My great grandfather was in a technical field. I was born, raised, brought up, and aimed inadvertently. I mean, my dad wanted me to do anything I wanted to do, but of course, you want to do what dad says. So that I was brought up, raised to be an engineer. I was schooled and educated and degreed as an engineer. And now I do this. Imagine my dad's confusion. But my whole background was trained to think like an engineer. Yeah. All of y'all that know engineers, yep, trained to think like an engineer. So I am a practical mystic. Like pure scientists study pure science to study pure science. Engineers study pure science to find out what can we do with it. What's the use of it? Where do we put it? So even within my mystical visions, I find myself looking for the practical part of it. So in addition to being a practical mystic, I'm also a practicing intuitive. I'll say it right out loud. I am a professional psychic, which along the way I've like hidden that carefully to not get lynched. Between spiritual counselor and now life coach. Once life coach got invented, then good, I've got a good hiding place there. I'm a life coach. I'm a spiritual life coach. I'm an intuitive life coach. I can say all those things and not get hung. So I am a practicing psychic. And I've been a practicing psychic for many weeks now. Many weeks. I've been accessing my intuitive and my psychic abilities with my clients many hours of many days of many weeks of many years. We'll help you out. I did my very first readings with tarot cards for anybody at all in 1977. Many weeks. I didn't go full pro then. I still was able to have a job. It wasn't until about 1980 that I became unable to have a job because my hobby had taken over my life. This consciousness thing had taken over my life, and there wasn't time to go have an employer. And in that practice, as I mentioned, sometimes I end up knowing stuff and having to say stuff that makes no sense to me, and turns out it makes total sense to my clients. Sometimes I end up not even knowing what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an area of life or an industry or a workplace that I don't have any education or background in, and yet my job is to describe to them how their industry works and what they need to do differently within their job. But even within that, I'm noticing my latest metaphor is that I used to have to either get a step ladder, a little stair step, or really stretch to get stuff on the highest shelf in my metaphorical kitchen. But now in the remodel that we're in the midst of, they've moved my kitchen floor up about 2 feet, while the cabinets stayed at the same height. So my operating altitude within my kitchen is way closer to those highest shelves than it used to be. God, I hope that's working. Did that make sense? I'm noticing that those intuitive hits are not the reach they once were, but that they're right there at reach. And then I'm also noticing that a whole lot of them are flowing unnoticed into my awareness and my regular activities. And they just flow in. I just know things. I see things. I realize things. I'm cracking up. I have some dear friends in LA. I think I mentioned that I visit frequently, and it's my tradition to do the December holidays with them. And just before I was going to be headed down there, I noticed that my mind was drawn to an ozone generator that I was thinking I might want to put up in the attic of my house, if for no other reason to make sure that the squirrels and the rodents didn't find the attic an interesting place to be, and where I wouldn't have to be around it. And I'd looked at that, it caught my attention, and out of nowhere, I was thinking that, wow, I ought to take a look at this brand that I know that I like. Um, I think they're having a sale, and they caught my attention. And I looked them up, and in fact, I got ready to order it, and figured out that by the time I ordered it and it was delivered, I would already be in LA with my friends. So I was going to order it and have it delivered to their house with really a fairly weak justification on why I suddenly needed one now. If I'd really torn it apart, it wouldn't have made sense. It just seemed obvious at the time that, wow, I need to get one. I ought to get one. I ought to put it in this crawl space up the attic up above. And I'm not going to be home. I ought to order it and have it delivered to their house. Imagine and I couldn't. It turned out that company won't ship to California for whatever reason. Didn't matter. But I set it aside after that. And it's like, okay, I can't get their sale. No, I won't think about it. Lo and behold, I got to LA. And the day after I got there, my friend discovered that a house that he and his brother owned, that something had died in that house, and they were going to need to have that smell of that cleaned out with something like an ozone machine. Now, I didn't think of it as a psychic hit when I was thinking of California banned ozone machines, although I'm finding them, I'm seeing them, so I don't know exactly how that lays out. But anyway, um, it was like I didn't know that was a psychic hit when I suddenly found myself shopping an ozone machine that I would have had delivered to their house, and it would have been there the day they needed it. It was just right there. Kitchen floor has been moved up 2 feet in my metaphorical kitchen to where my metaphorical psychic up high kitchen cabinets are not as far of a reach as they used to be. Sorry for the grossness of the story, but y'all are getting the drift, right? Y'all are having that happen where you're getting more synchronicities, where either you had a sense of it before it happened, or you had a thought about that thing before the thing showed up, or you just had a thought about some old movie that nobody talked about in years, and 20 minutes later you're in a conversation and somebody's talking about the fact they just watched this old movie and how amazing it was, or you just randomly thought to stop into this store and look for this thing you hadn't thought of, and you got there the day they had it on sale, or the day they got it back in stock because it had been out of stock, right? You just got it. You noticed this one thing, you read a book about this one thing, you encountered this one thing, and then it showed up more and more and more. Breathe, please. Everybody breathe. Quit arguing in your head. This is real. This is real, and it's really happening. This is real, and it's real world, and it's really happening. And it's probably about time that you stop arguing with you in your head about whether or not you do indeed see things, recognize things, sense things, feel things, taste things, hear things, know about things, find synchronicities and coincidences within yourself, and whether or not you really are that, whether or not that really happens in you. The challenge is not arguing whether or not you're getting the intuitive sense of things. The challenge is noticing that you are getting an intuitive sense of things and then navigating with that in place. As in, if I'm getting this intuitive sense of things, let me sort out what's important and useful and let me ignore what's not useful. I can have 47 coincidences in my day. That doesn't mean they meant anything. That just means I was dialed in, not useful information, not anything I have to do anything with. Just let them flow through. But these were the headlines that guidance was giving me in the Holy Days messages over those years. So I really want to bring this home to you. I noticed for me, stop sentence, restart. No, that was the right start. I noticed for me that it has been amazingly recentering, comforting, ability to move with grace, ability to move through reality. it has been amazingly supportive on my ability to move through reality, to be able to take a look at this incredibly striking polarization that's going on in our population, this incredible grabbing of power based on following and being able to then take a following and break all the rules. This incredible, lots of people leaving the planet in new and interesting ways. I mean, even the people that are leaving the planet in warfare and genocide, they're doing it in new and interesting ways. 10 years ago, you didn't hear about several hundreds or thousands of people being killed by drones. That's new and interesting. Which, by the way, guidance really made it clear that people are leaving the planet right now the same way that if you've ever done a remodel on your home, there's two ways to do it. If you've ever done a remodel, one way is to actually live in a construction zone while they do the remodel and live around the remodel in the house. The other way that's much more pleasant is move out of the house and come back when it's done. The people leaving the planet right now are people that would much rather move out of the house during this change of energy frequency and come back when it's done. They'd much rather leave this this third going to fourth grade classroom and come back when it's fully redone as a fourth grade classroom, or for that matter, when they come back to a different third grade classroom because they're not ready for that fourth grade stuff yet. But those are the people that are really wanting to not hang out here in the third grade classroom during the remodel. From a physical sense, I am horrified by people dying. From a physical sense, I am horrified by polar bears dying. I don't know why polar bears get to me, but they do. From a metaphysical sense, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. You just didn't want to be here during the remodel. You want to come back when the remodel's done. I think it was Joan Rivers that said her favorite way to do birth was knock me out completely and then bring me back when room service is ready and the baby's already here, like maybe 6 years old or a teenager. So from a metaphysical place, it's really comforting to go, okay, I get it. From a physical experience space, it's horrifying to think of this many people that are on the planet grieving a loss. And no way, please don't misunderstand. I don't get to a place where I think, wow, that's really groovy. Good thing that you're murdering people because, well, they needed to go anyway. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that from a metaphysical place, yeah, redoing your kitchen can work, but only because you could close that whole part of your house off. It was over in the comments. Sorry, they got my attention about a kitchen remodel. But from a metaphysical sense, I find it reassuring to have all of these symptoms in my mind with my awareness of them and be able to look at this craziness on the planet and go, yep, effectively, that's what God, the contractor, told me it was going to look like if I was living here during the remodel. That I would see lots of people leaving the planet in new and interesting ways. That I would see, holy crap, my body feels like it's April 10th and my calendar says it's January 13th of next year. Wow, isn't this fun? I can pay attention to the fact that this intuitive stuff is flowing in way more readily than it ever did. And it is for everybody, which, by the way, is part of why the planet is so crazy. Think of a control freak suddenly not having control of their thoughts. Think of a control freak suddenly thinking, feeling, sensing everything's changing. What are they going to do? They're going to try and jam it down, tighten it down, and grip it down to make sure nothing changes for them. Read an article recently where supposedly a real conversation, but somebody described talking to an elder politician who'd been around long enough they didn't care. And, and saying like, what are you doing? Why are you in politics? And the elder politician who'd been around long enough they didn't care said back, you don't understand. I did not get into politics and power. I did not get into this game of power to make things better for you. I got into this game of power to make things stay the same or get better for me. Makes it all make a lot more sense, doesn't it? I mean, a simple thing, simple piece. If I employ people in a business, if I own a lot of businesses and they employ a lot of people, if those people can't get health insurance except from an employer, how many employees am I going to lose? And how much extra benefits do I have to give them to keep them if they need to be employed in order to have health insurance? So for God's sake, let's make sure there's not health insurance available to people that aren't employed. Breathe, please, everybody. Big, deep breath. Not going to stay here very long, but y'all got to think about where it all fits. If I'm winning at the game and I want to make sure everybody knows that I'm a genius and I'm winning, I need other people losing at the game so that they'll see by how much I'm winning. Breathe, please. It's a sad statement, but it's true. Makes it make sense. Meanwhile, having had this advance notice from the God contractor of what this place was going to look like during the remodel, then I can actually breathe and go, oh yeah, everything I'm looking at that looks like craziness tells me that we are exactly on track. Breathe, please. Everybody, long, deep breath, let it out again. Everything that I'm looking at that looks like craziness, I can remember that this is exactly what they told me would be the markers that were telling me we were on track. Breathe. Now, I have for a lot of years had a high envy for people that were able to be devotees, that they were able to find a teacher and a teaching and then just plug themselves into it, my description, not theirs, and just plug themselves into it and follow whatever that teacher told them in a state of belief that they were on track and that was the deal. They're good now. They're dialed in, they're built into their particular Lego assembly of reality, and they can be a devotee. I myself have not been able to do that, and I've studied with a number of people. I've studied under teachers that people around me in the same study group recognized they'd found their path and they devoted, and they're inside the box now. And that sounded prejudicial. And they're in a path that's laid out for them with, they're in the paved path through the park, and they know they're on the path and they know their track, and that's great. I have, oddly enough, throughout my adult life, been a scout, a pathfinder. In my ordination, in the going through the training for my ordination, I had to list all the stuff I'd done, and I had I don't know, two and a half, I think, pages, single spaced, of people I'd studied under and things I'd studied and been certified or studied in. That's been my path. My path has been finding paths. There are people that have studied with me that did indeed take that information and find themselves being able to devotee to various teachers that I had studied under. That's fabulous, but I envy it. But I'm not that. I'm pathfinder. And so I find that being able to know that the contractor, God, has told me what this is going to look like as we go through it has been really useful. But one of the other paths I've been unable to follow is the path of renunciation. I'm not going to listen to the news. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to stay in my own head and be in my own spiritual practice. I am not knocking that. I think that's enviable. I love that. I would adore that for me, but I can't adore that for me. Guidance for me, and you don't have to do this. This is not a, well, Scout said this is what everybody's supposed to do. No, I think renunciation sounds way better to me, quite frankly. Or at certain points in time, I think being poof off the planet sounds way better too, but not my path. Sorry, I'll be back. Um, my path has been two-pronged. One side of my path is staying aware. I'm not too deep in the rabbit hole, but staying aware and staying in touch with all of what I would refer to as the ugliness that's being perpetrated and normalized on the planet between people, or between people and baby polar bears. I don't know. But one part of my path has been staying in touch with current events and having all of my feeling responses to what I'm seeing as ugliness that's being normalized and perpetrated. The other side of my path has been have those feelings, have those experiences, embody those feelings, embody those experiences, and come back to being in my center and in my light as fast as I'm able, while having those feelings, while being those feelings, while having that part of me that is those feelings, coming back into my own center where it all fits and it all makes sense and it's all part of the all. I am me and you are you, but we are we and we are all together. Every single thing, more mystical visions, they showed me that every single way a human being can be, every single way a human being can be. Yep, every single cruelty way a human being can be, I have in me. Every single way beauty a human being can be, light and beauty, I have in me. I'm like those I'm like those big mixing consoles that you see in recording studios on television or in a movie or in a concert, where I'm dialing up which parts of being a human being I'm expressing and living in, and I'm dialing down which parts of a human being that I'm not expressing and being in, but they're all there. We came in to untangle these tangles of energy. And we came in because we had to match our frequency to the frequencies of the KNOT naught. We had to experience the NOT naughtness to match our frequency to the KNOT naught of energy to be able to untangle it. Any of y'all that like science fiction, one of the themes that shows up in science fiction is suddenly through some weird thing that happens, somebody gets bumped to a different frequency dimension, and they can walk through doors and they pass their hand through the people, but they can't communicate with the people and they can't shake hands, and usually that's like a traumatic thing. There's several episodes in the Star Trek series of these. If I'm up at that elevated frequency of blissness, I can't affect the tangled, denser KNOT knots in my energy that I took on as my part of the project. Original sin was just, yep, okay, I volunteer. Give me a scoop of those. I'll fix them. Every one of you did it. Yep, I volunteer. Give me a scoop of them tangles and I'll untangle them. Give me my fistful of grandma's tangled up jewelry and I'll untangle all of my fistful of the chains, and then we'll figure out which ones are valuable chains and which ones are costume jewelry. Give me my fistful, I'll take care of them, I'll untangle them. All of us, that's why we're here, is we volunteered to take a scoop of these energy tangles and work them through and untangle them. And we do that by matching energy with them. And by matching energy with them, we embody them. And by embodying them, we're able to have an effect on them. And by having effect on them, we can untangle them. But in doing that, we have to be them. If in my scoop I happen to get a whole lot of stuff about death, which I did, Janet did, I'm going to be in a lifetime where I get killed young, suddenly by surprise, to find out if I can untangle my stuff about death by being surprised by it. I'm going to be in a lifetime where I outlive everybody I know, and they all die, so that I can figure out, well, if I study death from the outside, can I untangle my stuff about death? I'm going to be in a lifetime where I murder some folks, or I get in a war and I kill a bunch of people, so that I can recognize that, oh, okay, this looks like a huge traumatic big deal from that side. And in truth, once I'm in the metaphysical side of it, it's just a transition. I'm going to do death from every angle I can do death until I find the one that lets me pull the thread out of that knot and lets the knot fall apart, because now I got it. I'm going to do the cruelty. I'm going to do the victim. I'm going to do the isolated. I'm going to do the adored. I'm going to do the winning at the game. I'm going to do the trodden down and being beaten by the game, but not getting to die yet. I'm going to do the long, slow death. I'm going to do the fast, surprise death. Yeah, that many lifetimes. There are some teachers that teach that we do as many lifetimes as there are variations on ways you could be human, or mistakes you could make, or ways that you could be off. I'm not sure that I know that, because I'm not thinking that everybody got everything in their scoop of tangles, but we're going to do all the angles on our tangles. Oh, that was an accident. Cute though, so I'll say it twice. We're going to do all the angles on our tangles to get it from different angles till we finally find the angle that lets us go, and release it. I forgive me for not knowing then what I know now. So I forgive me for acting the way I acted then, that allowed me to learn what I know now. I forgive them, not based on whether or not they deserve forgiveness, but because I deserve peace. I release the part of me that's clenching up around whatever they did, not because they deserve for me to forgive them, but because I deserve to not be clenched up around whatever it was I'm thinking that they did as a doing this. Breathe, please. Deep breath, let it out. I know it's going fast now, but I've only got a few minutes before we have to open for questions, so I got to make you as confused as I can, because then the questions will be easier. We're going to do all of those various ways of being human. We have all of them inside of us, which is not to say, there's a wonderful quote from Jerry Jampolsky, which is simply put, forgiveness is not the same as condoning. That I unclench the part of me that clenched around what someone did doesn't mean that I'm saying, Yahoo, let's do that some more. You know, I'm not the 3-year-old who just got his favorite book read to him going again, again, again. It's more like, yeah, I get it. I don't have to be clenched up about that, but let's don't participate in that. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to be around you while you do that. Forgiveness is not the same as condoning. So as we move up in classroom levels, there's less and less of the beauty, pure alignment, pure aligned energy outside of us. There's more and more of that pure aligned energy that's been incorporated, absorbed into the living beings. Good news is we have more of that beauty inside of us. Bad news is, well, just like going from second grade to college, the math classes are actually harder in college than they were in second grade. Even if math was hard for us in second grade, the math classes are actually harder in college. The lessons, the tangles we're delving into, stop, restart. So you may have noticed right now, there's some deep organically produced fertilizer showing up in your world lately about your view of yourself, your view of your history, your view of how you're responding, your view of how life feels to you, what your mind is trying to tell you about your placement in life, where you should have been by now, what you should have done by now, where you should not have been by now, what you should not have been still doing by now. You may have noticed that this energy stuff, that this energy change that's going on our planet is stirring deeper and deeper parts of you that have been just sort of like laying dormant, not seeming like a big deal and not getting your attention for a while. And now all of a sudden it's in your face. We're moving up in frequency, and moving up in frequency means that everything that's denser than this frequency is showing up for us to have our ability to have that experience and be in our center, be in our light, be in our live being, be in our center. It's what I've got. Sorry. If that one doesn't translate for you, you can put in the questions. We'll talk about it later. As this energy increases, it's bumping old stuff up in us. Physiological stuff where we've been perhaps not polite to our bodies, recognizing how much we don't like being out of alignment with our bodies and finally eating differently or supplementing differently to get our bodies more tuned, but also psychologically and where we stand in life and what our placement is, how we treat ourselves, how we view the world, moving up. I will tell you that one thing that's been popping for me in the last week and a half just to share it because it may have popped for you and you may not have noticed it. Because I do client work, I get to go be out in my elevated state and get to move, run my mouth, which makes me notice things now because like, if I'm ending up finding that I'm telling 12 clients this week about this, then I know I'm in a trend. It's like, oh, that's what's going on. I'm noticing that all of a sudden I am comfortably off the top of my head, clearly explaining other people's basic motivation, not why they did that, but their basic motivation, what drives them, in ways where the client suddenly gets that they can navigate differently with that human being now that they know what that human being is really trying to do rather than what it looked like they were trying to do. So that's a piece you may notice opening for you, is seeing what people are based in just out of nowhere, knowing where they're coming from on a really deep level, just a side note. So you may have noticed that as his energy is speeding up, deep stuff inside of you is being bestirred in you, psychologically, emotionally, even physiologically, that you're having to come attuned with and get over your judgment about and let yourself know that you are that. And once you know you are that, then you have choices about how you navigate with it. Boy, that was a tough sentence. I hope that worked. I don't want to say anything. Well, as we go from third grade to fourth grade to fifth grade to sixth grade, the math gets harder. So as we move up in these evolutionary levels and we have more and more of that beauty inside of us and less of it scattered around, that means we have less and less random opportunities to bump into randomly distributed beauty that's just hanging out on the planet. I notice now if I'm in a really grumpy mood and I walk out the door and I see a rainbow, that'll bump me. I'll go, oh yeah, rainbow, come on, Scout, come back. You have a choice of whether or not you're going to stay in this grumpy energetic state or whether you're going to shift this grumpy energetic state while owning the emotion that went with it. If I see baby ducks, that'll always do it for me. Even pictures of baby ducks will do it for me. Even people reminding me that I think pictures of baby ducks are cute will do it for me. It's like, yeah, got it. Boom, boom. I have a choice about whether I'm going to stay in this grumpy state or whether I'm intentionally going to elevate my energy and interact with my world from there because I get external reminders. Beautiful people, beautiful phrases, beautiful books, beautiful concepts in a book, rainbows, butterflies. I'm real hooked for butterflies. Flowers. If y'all want to check in what I've been up to lately, my Facebook page is Scout Bartlett. And I've sort of been conscientiously making my protest against the ugly by posting beauty in my Facebook page every day, along with jokes and humor and consciousness stuff. But there you go. Right now on this planet, we have lots of aligned energy that we experience as beauty that's still randomly scattered on the planet. As we move up to grade 6, 7, from the outside, those planets look more stark. Why? Because more of the beauty at those levels is incorporated in the beings at those levels. Less of it is still randomly scattered around to be the reminder. Did some work with a guy named Leonard Orr, and Leonard had one quote that I just hold to my heart. His quote was, I choose to believe in life ongoing beyond death. And I do that for 2 reasons, Leonard said. One, it improves the quality of my life now. If I live my life now as if there's an ongoing growth beyond death, it improves the quality of my life now. And 2, if it turns out that there is nothing beyond death, well, then I'll never know I was wrong anyway. I like it. But the other key part is if I'm believing in there being ongoing life beyond death, then I'm living my life in that thought and I'm building my habits, my mind habits, my thought habits, my looping thoughts in that direction. So that if indeed, as I experience it, there is an ongoing consciousness beyond death and there is a progression of learning, if I'm already building that practice while I'm in this body, then when I cross over, I'm already moving in the right direction. And of course, if there's nothing, then I'll never know I was wrong anyway. So what the heck? But I'm already moving in the right directions, because when I experience people after death, when I'm talking to entities that aren't wearing bodies, my summary phrase about all of them that is universal to all of them is, there is no state that's more ungrounded than the state of not having a grounding vessel. People that don't have bodies are the ultimate of ungrounded. And they are like ADD off the chart. It's hard to hold their focus and their attention long enough to get an answer to a question. And the reality they experience is like dream state. The reality they experience is the reality that they have trained their mind to move to. I'm going to say it again. Beyond body, the reality we experience is way more like what we experience here as dream state. I have a fabulous, memorable dream where in the dream, I walked up to, I don't know, 10-foot tall, 15-foot long pumpkin and opened the door and stepped in to a moving train. And then realized that I actually needed to talk to somebody that was 3 cars further forward in the moving train. So I stepped out of the moving train, walked along the ground next to the moving train, and stepped back into the car 3 cars or 4 cars ahead of me. And now I'm back in a moving train. Dream state, right? When we don't have a body, we're closer to dream state. So whatever we are allowing to be the flow in our consciousness is what we will experience in our surroundings in that afterlife state. Not that you need to be terrified about it, but it turns out that it's really, really, really handy to develop your ability, your strength, your choice, to develop your ability to choose your state of being and state of emotions, and to develop your ability to notice when your state of emotions has gone grunchy, and to let that be a cue to remind you that you want to break out of that stuck state of grunchy back into a state of aliveness, and then move forward from there. If that's what I build while I'm alive, the ability to notice when I'm in a state of grumpy, and the recognition that that's my Zen gong. Wow, I just had a 3rd grumpy thought in a row. Time for me to shift my, and I'll tell you that when I tell me it's time for me to, excuse me, when I tell me that it's time for me to shift my energy back to aliveness, I got to tell you, the grumpy state has 1,001 arguments and justification for why that would be untrue to my circumstances. I just barely caught this, so you can substitute. Swear word, my circumstances. Oh, got that right. You heard it. Swear word, my circumstances. They're just circumstances. We've all had those uplifting stories about, visit some people that live in a hut with a dirt floor, and the dirt floor is swept clean, and the food is clean and healthy, and they're happy and joyful, and then go visit somebody with wall-to-wall carpeting and a beautiful mansion, and they're in a miserable mood. Swear word, my circumstances. I can choose who I am and who I'm being, regardless of circumstances. That's that phrase, unconditional, regardless of circumstances, love, which is the state I'm aiming toward. I think love is the word for the sensation we experience when our energy and our aliveness is flowing in us. Unconditional means regardless of circumstances. Love is the word for the experience we have when we're allowing our energy and our aliveness to be flowing in us. That does not mean that we have to condone whatever, or stick around whatever, or be around whatever, or giggle and laugh at how cute the flames are while our house is burning down above us. We can get out of the burning house and still not be in the state of angry, annoyed, it's awful, why did this happen to me, or wherever else we might go. Because I will tell you, there are more solutions available to any miserable circumstance. There are more solutions available when you're in your aliveness than there are available when you're in your mad at it and it's wrong and it shouldn't be that way and I don't deserve that, blah, blah, blah. And not only are we magnetizing this third grade classroom into being a fourth grade energy field, we are magnetizing our circumstances, which is not to say that if I'm in a pile of organically created fertilizer circumstances, that, oh my God, I did this to me. I organically evacuated upon me. Trying really hard not to swear. No, it's like, this is where I am. Not how did I get here, not what did I do wrong, not why am I being punished. This is how I am. This is where I am. Where do I choose to go from here is always the question. Not what did it to me, not why am I here. Where do I choose to go from here? We're moving forward in a frequency elevation. All of this craziness on the planet tells us we are exactly on track. All of my training tells me that my job is to be a camp lantern in the darkness. Not just a flashlight that's lighting my way, a camp lantern in the darkness, coming back to my center, being my light, even when the darkness says, ooh, be dark, it's darkness. Come back to my center, be my light, be a camp lantern. Because it turns out that every additional camp lantern we have in the darkness makes it easier for other people to remember that they can be a camp lantern too. To borrow from Marianne Williamson, you're playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't be uncomfortable. We're meant to shine and to be that glory. And as we shine, we trigger others to remember their light as well. Everybody tends to match the most consistently held energy in the space. I choose to be as consistent as I can be, a camp lantern. Coming back from having my feelings, having my experience, having my judgments and everything else about what's going on and being my light, even while I notice that, while I notice it, while I experience it. Because every time that any one of us has our feelings and comes back to our light while the feelings are vibrating, just coming back to our light while those feelings are vibrating pulls more threads out of that KNOT knot. And every time we come back to our light in the middle of those feelings vibrating, we've pulled more threads out until the knot falls apart. And then we start to notice that we don't draw that to us, but we also don't notice it doesn't disturb us as much. We're just there having that happen. Oh, yeah, we've been here before. There's parts of San Jose that they hide the freeway entrances on purpose because you're not supposed to go there. I find that I navigate around San Jose frequently from a state of, I've been lost here before. I'm lost here again. How did I find my way out of it last time? And that is literally how now we've got GPS. It's like there's no fun in the game. But literally, that would be how I would navigate in big chunks of San Jose. I've been lost here before. Now that I'm not all crunched up about I'm lost, I don't know where it is. They hide the signs, but I'm just at like, I've been lost here before. I know I found my way out of it before. Now, how did I do that? And then we move forward. There's way more options when your lights are on. And every single time we can have the feeling, so whatever they are, judgment, anger, distress, whatever they might be, and come back to our light while the feelings are vibrating, we're pulling threads out of that knot so that that knot eventually falls apart and we're free. Which is exactly how we want to be after we cross over, but it's also exactly how we want to be in this transition so that we can be camp lanterns when other people are going, oh my God, the darkness, they can go, a point of light. Let me remember that that's who I am and let me emulate that. So all you cute, adorable, beautiful points of light, thank you for being here with me. Thank you for being here when I decided to be here. Thank you for choosing to come in and play in this amazing transformation time. And, God bless us one and all.
Oh,
I think I'm supposed to open for questions.
absolutely. How beautiful, 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 Scout. I have so many notes, and I just want to comment, first of all, on your incredible imagery. Uh, was very, very wonderful, very, very clear, and very, very motivating and enlightening for me. Rachel, I see you have your hand up. Please unmute.
Hi. Oh my gosh. I didn't realize I would get called on so fast. Thank you so much, Scout. What an incredible conversation, and just listening to you has been a pleasure. I managed to cross the bay while listening to you. So anyway, I wanted to
There's
say,
that walking on water thing.
um, yes, times are changing. I wanted to say first, I'm really glad that you refer to it as moving from the third grade to the fourth grade, because the dance floor is very full right now of people talking about this transition that we're in, and they don't call it anything fun. It's all very serious. So I hope you never, ever, ever change that. And I love it. Um,
Thanks.
I do want to say that I do feel like since forever, people have been talking about the dawning, the coming, the this, the that, even the Celestine prophecy was talking about this thing that never happened. So I'm wondering, instead of seeing signs out there in the world, which I feel like since we're always changing, it's hard to for me to find peace in that, even though at various times I've noticed time is speeding up and etc. Um, I'm wondering if there's any sense, is it like something that we'll know within? Like, are we going to be immune to the horrible things happening that are, as this division kind of ramps up? Like what happens internally?
Um, the good news is time is speeding up, energy is speeding up, our
Mm-hmm.
access to our intuitive is increasing, and our intuitive is coming closer.
Mm-hmm.
The other good news is that the energy that we're running in is running much deeper and going to be pushing stuff to the surface in us. So we will get wonderful opportunities to be reminded about the places where we can go out of center, and learning about how fast we can come back to, my word is come back to center, come back to my awareness, come back to my uplifted point of view, while having and experiencing the feelings that go with it. This is not, oh, I'm not going to feel that, I'm just going to feel good. This is, wow, I'm going to feel that and feel good. I'm going to feel that feeling and let myself come back to my state of light, enlightenment, whatever word you want. But yeah, we're in the crux of it. It's cresting. So the never of the Celestine prophecy turns out to be, yeah, about now. Thanks, Rachel.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Anybody else? But there's just been some incredible. There's another person coming into the waiting room. Isn't that great? So I wanted to ask Scout, uh, on the daily, as you've talked about it, and you've done it very eloquently and very beautifully. How do we manage the shift and the changes that are happening by just staying in the present moment? I'm thinking that might be one way, or sensing that might be. Do you have any other ideas?
So I'm noticing that while I have had a meditation practice for weeks now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that I'm getting an increased urgency about making sure that I get into that meditative state as often
Yes.
as possible. I mean, certainly once a day, but making sure I get into that meditative state as often as possible, so that when I'm out in life between meditations, I'm I'm only a little while, call it a few hours away from the last time that I allowed myself to be in that centered state and allowed myself to have my energy flowing. The real key is, how quickly can I notice that something in myself or my surroundings justified justified me into going out of my center. I'm going to repeat that. It's a weird
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah.
How quickly can I notice that I took something in my surroundings to be a justification for being in my woe is me or my angry or my upset or my distress or my loss? How quickly can I notice that I took something from my surroundings to justify me being out of my center?
Right.
And then once I can notice that, how quickly can I let go of that justification and have my feelings, but come back to my aliveness, come back to my center, come back to where I got to in my most recent crocheting meditation?
Beautiful.
How
Thank you.
quickly can I notice and let go of that justification and come back? How quickly can I notice and let go of that justification and come back? Which, quite frankly, is my key element about meditation. I don't care whether you're crocheting or knitting or walking or bicycling or sitting in a chair or hanging from your heels. Meditation to me is how quickly can I notice when I lost my meditative focus and went into a train of thought? How quickly can I notice that I'm in this thought chain and break out of the thought chain and come back to my chosen focus? How quickly can I notice I fell into a thought chain and break out of that thought chain and come back to my focus?
Thank you. And we've got Kathleen that has a question, and then we have Allison after Kathleen.
Okay, well, Scout, I very much appreciate, the message, and I saw the High Holy Days too, about sort of coming back to your center and just exactly kind of what you're saying now. And I think, I think I for one, um, can sort of skip meditations and kind of like let things go and sort of kind of get pulled, too much into kind of what's going on. So, point well taken, to try to, especially I have a bit more time now that I retired to kind of do that.
Wait, you're somebody that actually has more time now that you're retired. Everybody else I know got more busy.
Well, and that's the thing is, it's like I've kind of gotten busy, as you say, sort of this splitting, and the the separation, and at least kind of like what we see in the United States, that one side is really managed to set the narrative and in one way to pull a lot of people, into more of a divisive, and then maybe for the rest of it, it's kind of reacting to it. But if we kind of look at sort of what's happened here and kind of compare it to like Germany, say like 1930s, and then I've heard like kind of a lot of analysis, of, well, Germans should have been doing more to like shift things, but so kind of within that, and as you say, sort of seeing the ugly and then kind of coming back to your beauty or your centeredness. Is there something that's ever kind of come through your guidance around sort of this shift or this time where we kind of like find ourselves, I guess I'm kind of looking to the point of like activism, is there something kind of around this time that's kind of calling us to wake up to doing, things about the situation? I guess, for myself, I kind of find it better to just to try to look for things more locally because, other than, when a national election comes up, and then maybe at this point, an activism around, what can they do to make sure that the midterm elections happen even. I don't know, it's just, I guess, sort of, as, an American, I think we were, I don't, kind of growing up in this country, like taught that, this is the great democracy. And then, it takes people kind of standing up and pulling it in that direction. But I find, it's like, in a way, it's we're kind of limited to.
I don't know how to put my hand up. Oh.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of went on for a while, but I guess maybe if I were trying to summarize that, is like, does the guidance kind of show kind of a way towards activism? Like what's the best form of activism?
Let me put the thing on pictures. Oh, there.
Donna, you have become unmuted. You might want to mute yourself again.
Sorry.
Yeah, Kathleen, couple pieces. One that really thrills me. the current guy that likes to Twitter his Twitters from the White House bathroom in the middle of the night. So the current insomniac that likes to Twitter his Twitters from the White House bathroom rather than sleeping. The previous time when he was Twittering from the White House bathroom, he triggered the most global and the most populated demonstrations by women about supporting women. And sorry, girls, but I find it startling to me that women don't support women. They won't vote for women to be the president of the U.S. They don't support women. For a while, I watched a game called Survivor on TV. And I noticed that if two men formed an alliance in that game, they could hold it. If a man and a woman formed an alliance in that game, they could drive that through and win. But if 2 or 3 women formed an alliance, they would never hold. They would go out of support of each other. And just a generalization. But you can notice that women have refused to vote for women for president. So I will just say that, and y'all can go wherever you want to go with that. It's just my conclusions and my thoughts. That's just part of the structure. I find it interesting that men are herd creatures. We flock in herds, and we act. If you want to understand men, turn on the Animal Planet and look for any program that involves herd behavior. Hooves and antlers will be the giveaway. And you'll understand men. The alpha male runs to the front of the herd and has his choice of the prime does. The lesser males find their place in the herd beneath that, avoiding that danger, and choose among the lesser does so that they're not endangered. The rogue male runs to the side of the herd, attempting to poach a prime doe to then establish himself as an alpha male without having actually challenged the alpha male. But the women run the gig. So that's men. We're herd creatures. While women cluster more and certainly go to the bathroom together, women are cats. They're not herd creatures. They're very much not wanting to be a herd creature dominated by the other women. So there you go. There's my thoughts on that. But meanwhile, the last time that the guy that's currently twiddling from the White House bathrooms was around, we had the largest international demonstrations of women being in support of women, and we had a stunning realization of maybe we could be in support of women, and we got the Me Too movement of maybe women should support speaking out so that they're not threatened with their job if they don't keep put out, and so forth. Huge transformation in women supporting women, all led by the guy that's currently twiddling from the White House bathrooms, right? Okay. Counterexample, but nonetheless, huge movement. And even now we're seeing that movement of women supporting women, but we're also seeing movement of people supporting people against cruelty and obscene cruelty. I'll just use that, ugliness. We're seeing lots of demonstrations of people supporting people against obscene ugliness. People are gathering, you know what? I think I don't approve of it being real ugly out there. So they're catching on, and other people are noticing that their own ugly behavior is getting disapproved of. All part of the whole process of moving forward. So I kind of have followed so far from, I'll sum my phrase this way, that be what you would choose to be on purpose, often, coming back to it every time you get knocked out of that state of beingness. Come back to that state of beingness. Be what you would choose to be. And I will tell you, God, I don't know what's been going on in the last week or so, or maybe it's just me, in which case I'll be embarrassed. But I've been noticing that I've been really short-tempered. This, that, and the other was annoying me. It's making me mad. It's triggering me into a state of anger. And it's been a real challenge to come back to being at center and at peace while my brain is busy screaming, these people around me are doing ridiculous and stupid things. They're driving badly. They're threatening my ability. They're putting their shopping cart in front of my shopping cart when all I wanted to do was go down the aisle, blah, 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 blah. That's been up for me in the last week and a half, along with some stuff in my body that's pissing me off. Not literally. I twisted a knee, and that's been a very entertaining education. with like, not how my body should be. Well, great. Let's figure out how to get along otherwise. Let's buy a brace. Let's get a cane. Let's go to a chiropractor. Let's get it healed. But let's focus on healing it. But maybe that's why I've been short-tempered. But I've been noticing that's up, and so it's really been a challenge for me to remember to come back to my center when what I really want to be is ticked off.
Yeah.
Right? What's really triggering me is rah, 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 rah. I want to be grumpy. So my comment back would be what you would choose to be, and then do what shows up to do.
Mm-hmm.
One time, years and years and years ago, I met some people at midnight in a grocery store in Sedona, Arizona. Lots of people heard the long story. This will be the short version. And they found me in this grocery store at midnight in Sedona and ran up to tell me how I had changed their lives. And I was a little embarrassed when I had to say, I'm really sorry, but I don't remember which class you were in. And they said, oh, God, no, you wouldn't remember us. They had been at Eric Meese's New Age Renaissance Fair. And they'd been in a room of about 400 people that I drew to listen to me talk, which is still amazing. And they didn't meet me. They didn't talk to me afterwards, but I taught that live beam meditation in that talk, and I talked about the energy flow and the energy patterns, and that all resonated for them. And as they described it, that was when they realized that they were retiring, that what they really wanted to do was sell their house, put that money into investments, buy a motorhome, and travel around the country. And what they'd been doing with their traveling around the country was finding metaphysical centers that would let them talk, or even just finding people. And they'd been teaching my live beam meditation all over the country. Literally, they said over and over, you have no idea how many people you've affected with all of the people we've talked to with this one thing we got from you in a room full of 400 people. So how could I possibly know whether it was more important for me to do a talk at the New Age Renaissance Fair, or whether it was more important to me to hold a sign in a demonstration?
Right.
No way for me to know which doingness was the more important doingness, but really, really clear the beingness that was the most important in the whole equation. So my whole concept is be a camp lantern, because that's what I'm here to do. Maybe not you. It's what I'm here doing. Having my feelings, having my responses, and being a camp lantern. So my answer would really be your chosen state of being and do what shows up to do, which might be a demonstration. It might be knitting clothing. It might be over tipping. It might be thanking people graciously so that they remember that there's light on the planet.
And Scott, I just have to tell you, you've got a lineup of people with questions. So,
oh goodness, thank you.
Okay. So
I got a short.
Okay. It's Allison, then it's Donna, and then it's Darshana.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Scout. So
Bye,
appreciate it. And I share your live beam meditation all the time, and I do it all the time, and it saves me. So I've been using it for over a decade now. So, and sharing it. So yes, it's wonderful. I am finding myself, I'm finding myself very frustrated. My situation is a little extreme, and I sometimes don't know what the next right action is to do. Like if I'm in a dangerous situation where I'm at, or if I should move, or if it gets confusing. And I just, as a light worker, I would just love to be able to focus my attention on that. And I know that that's not, I'm doing it all the time. And yet though, like for my actual business. And so I guess, it's just, I don't know how to move forward in this. It feels very way extreme. Like the cruelty that I'm experiencing is pretty extreme. I don't know if I should move myself out of it or if I need to just stay in it and shine my light in it.
Yeah.
How do you know? Like, and I'm sure a lot of light workers feel the same way. Like, how do you know what, when that time is, or if it.
It is a complicated piece, and the parts that I know of your path are particularly complicated.
Yeah.
Key element becomes when you find your mind running in loops around the cruelty and the disadvantage and the how it should be's. And I know I'm saying a ridiculous thing, but it's the truth. When you find your mind running around about the cruelty and the disadvantage and the people and the so forth, step number one in that moment is coming back to your center and your state of peace. And rather than listening to your mind that's trying to tell you that there is a place you should be where everything would be fine, this is a horribly hard thing to say, but be everything fine in the place you are. And then just notice what options are available to you from being everything's fine in the place you are. There's been a whole series of difficult stuff in your recent history. And yet I'll point out that this is harsh and I apologize, but everything that has looked life-threatening, you've actually not been life-threatened. In other words, you survived. You're still here. You're still on the planet. Everything that looked to your mind to be life-threatening, you're still here. So it becomes can I find my way to that peacefulness inside of me, even while my mind is trying to point out that I'm in terror? Can I find my way to that peacefulness inside of me and then find choices that would support that peacefulness without thinking that it has to be dependent on where I should go to find it? It turns out it isn't out there. It's in you. And yeah, I understand, Christians singing their prayers while being run at by lions. Hard, big challenge. That's why they wrote it up in that book. But coming back to your center and your peacefulness and building your energy in you while looking for whatever circumstances you can find locally that let you continue to move forward, whether it's income, whether it's housing, whatever it may be, but really coming back to that center and coming out of the state of terror that this is threatening my life and into a place of I am going to be alive and choose the things that support my life where I am. And if that draws me to another place, it draws me to another place. So I know that's not a fully gratifying answer, but coming back
No,
to the first
it's
step.
helpful.
Okay, thank you. Good.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Donna, I know you were having trouble raising your hand.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Scout. I'm so, I've been in such a funk lately, but what strikes me is the Iranian people and how we are not that different from the Iranian people that are going into the streets and being murdered, but they want to change their total government. So then I look at the alternative and I look at the protesters of this country. We've done this before in previous lives. We've lived through so many of these battles.
Yep.
So anyway, thank you for your
every way that humans beings can be, we have that in us, and we've been there, done that, and got the karmic t-shirt.
Absolutely.
Karma is not a punitive function. Each of us took a scoop of grandma's gold chains to untangle. Each of us took a scoop of these tangles. See, that's karma. Wow, bless their heart. Comcast just made my internet connection unstable. Right. So hopefully it'll at least stay with me. But karma is just the scoop of lessons we took on as our share of the whole grand project of lessons. It's not a punishment. It's just like, wow, I ran headfirst into that particular knot inside of me and that didn't untangle it. So I pulled it tighter by accident rather than loosening it. So my next time around, I'm going to have to come at it from a completely different angle. If I was busy killing people last life and that didn't sort it out for me, then maybe I need to do a few lifetimes where I get to be the people being killed. Or maybe I need to do a few lifetimes where I get to be the one that's watching the people being, whatever. It's all in there and we're sorting it out. So it's very, very true. We've done it before. We've done it from all the sides of the program. And a piece of what is going on is, words with friends. I get to find out that them commie pinko Russians, well, maybe they're commie pinko Russians, but my best friend on Wordle is really fun and they're Russian too. Now I've got friends in Russia. I've got friends in Venezuela. I've got friends in Tabasco, wherever. Anyway, I'm connecting with them. So in an interesting way, our electronic world is reminding us we're all connected, while our physical world is trying to remind us that we're all separate and isolated and need to win or lose or battle or whatever. And it all comes back to those of us that are waking up and would like to go to the 4th grade classroom now. Thank you very much. I so hope I'm in that group. Coming back to our essence, coming back to our light, being a camp lantern and being the most consistently held energy in our particular space, but being the most consistently held energy in our particular space in an elevated energetic state. That way we're on track when we cross over and we're on track when we come back.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Now we have our last question for the night before we complete, and that's
so make it a good one for gosh.
Darshana,
I just
please.
said it was such a stressful day today with so many things going on and so many people, and it was a great day. And I realized my daughter was here all day. Now she was stressed, but me being in mom made it better. Plus, I had this sweet young woman who came to do some cleaning for me. And she's Hispanic with an Hispanic husband and 2 kids, like 15 and 17. Very stressful for them. And we always talk. She's such a sweetheart. And I'm always good when there's somebody younger who I can be a mom for. It just brings me into my power and totally soothes everything else going on with me. And I just said to her, when you can't do anything else and it's really crazy, you got to breathe. You breathe and you ground yourself. And then, I should go out and protest, but I really don't have the energy today, or I have to do this. So then what you do is what the next thing you can do, you be kind to yourself. You be kind to the next people around you and the circle around you. And if that's all you can do, that's still changing things. And I was thinking today, I need to get myself more in a position where I have other people that kind of could use that from me, because that empowers me somehow. I'm stronger when I have other people that I can help. And it also strengthens my resolve. Oh, that's right. I just need to breathe and be kind to me and be kind to you. And then I can be kind to the jerks I'm reading about and the whatever, if I'm reading anything. So I was really lucky today that I got to see that, because I was feeling a little guilty that I'm not out there doing more.
Nice catch. And again, I would say, how would I have known? There's so many stories we get to hear that are nice moralistic stories of how would I have known that my choosing to do a talk at that one fair changed the lives of these 2 other people, which would change thousands of other lives. How would I have, and I've gotten those feedbacks some frequently, how would I have known that this one random thing I did or said, I've had people that don't know what I do for a living, that we have a conversation, and later they come back and they go, you changed my whole thought process. I'm thinking, what did I do? We just chatted. Well, and they'll go, well, it was your whole point of view. It completely changed how I was looking at it. Not that I was having my point of view. It's funny, Ram Dass talks about that there are people that if they approach him, they say, Ram Dass, he's, yes. But if there's people that knew him when he was Richard, and they say, Richard, oh yeah, what's up? I was not embodying Scout, the teacher. I was just being me, but my point of view has altered over the last few decades. And so I'm looking at, not on purpose, it's just how I see it. And how am I ever to know which day that's going to change the whole flow for the person behind me in the line at the store, or the person on the other side of the counter at the store, or the person eating a burrito at the next table, or I don't get to know. I just get to be what I choose to, exactly as you illustrated, Darshana. I get to be reminded to be the person I choose to be, coming back again and again and again and again to being the person I choose to be, and then unfold doing what shows up to do.
Thanks so much for this talk. This was just what I needed and wanted tonight.
Bless your heart. Thank you.
Perfect.
And thank you so much, Scout, for your
If
wisdom.
I can, I have 2 favors I'd like to ask before we knock me off.
Absolutely.
Number one, all of y'all, please, if you would, treat yourself as a loved one, because you are. I love you. You're connected energetically. Love is the word for our connection, for our aliveness. Treat yourself the way you would treat a loved one, because you are. And secondly, no matter where on earth you are, whenever you can, just notice that no matter where on earth you are, it's a perfect day. That have a great day on purpose. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Scout.
Scout. It was wonderful
And
seeing
thank
you.
you. It was great. And it was great seeing all of you. And so please join us for our next upcoming. We're going to have a couple of different speakers, so we'll keep you informed. We have to check on dates. So we meet the second Tuesday of every month. And join us from 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
And you're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
Welcome to donate to UCM.
Yes.
I think there's a link. There's a link on.
In the emails I just sent mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting
You're
us.
welcome to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
It felt good.
Wonderful. Thank you, Darshana. Thank you, each and every
Love you,
one.
Scout.
Have a
Thank you.
beautiful
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Scout.
you. Very informative.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Scout.
you.
Thank you.